Hey guys, this is Naman Mittal welcoming you all to Daily News Nuts, an initiative of PrepNuts. Today the date is 4th of June 2020 and we shall be seeing all the important articles and an aspirant must go through from the exam's perspective. आज नियर अबाउट हमारे पास 7 आर्टिकल्स हैं द हिंदू से, 2 articles we have from Indian Express and 2 from PIB. In total, we shall be seeing near about 11 articles. On the front page of the Hindu, there is news, government to boost infrastructure in areas along China border. So the Ministry of Home Affairs has decided to allocate 10% of the funds from the centrally sponsored schemes or the CSS to all the projects in the border areas, including in the areas like Ladakh, अरुणाचल प्रदेश, हिमाचल, उत्तराखंड एंड सिक्किम. तो एक बॉर्डर एरिया डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम रन होता है एमएचए का, एंड अंडर दिस BADP the MHA will allocate 10% of the funds from its CSS. The development of the projects will take place according to the identification done by the border guarding forces. तो बॉर्डर एरियाज में जो भी गार्डिंग फोर्सेस होती हैं लाइक ITBP, SSB, BSF, these forces will let know about the projects that have to be identified, and accordingly under the border area development program, the development of such projects will take place. So this was a small update with respect to the India-China border tensions, because the major reason behind India-China border tension is the border infra development done by the India, especially in the regions like the Galwan Valley, Pangong Tso, and Nakula sector. So this article can be seen as a stance of India that it is in no mood to leave the border modernization infra projects because of the recent and the ongoing tensions on the border with China. Well, let us move on to our next article. Mahindra Logistics launches queer inclusion policy. So Mahindra Logistics Private Limited has recently launched LGBTQAI inclusion policy. So this is an example actually, because LGBTQI का societal inclusion बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, and no matter how many policies or acts are implemented, unless societal inclusion is ensured, the overall empowerment of the LGBTQI cannot be done. तो एक ये छोटा सा आर्टिकल है बट इसमें एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एग्जांपल हिडन था. सो द रोल एंड द रिस्पांसिबिलिटी ऑफ द प्राइवेट सेक्टर टुवर्ड्स द LGBTQI एंड फॉर द ओवरऑल सोसाइटल इंक्लूजन यू कैन यूज दिस एग्जांपल. नाउ लेट अस मूव ऑन टू आवर नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल 7 to 11. So the group of 7 or the G7 summit was scheduled to take place in the USA in September 2020, but the US President Donald Trump has recently postponed it by calling the G7 an outdated group which needs further expansion. So he came out with the list of 4 countries which he wants to be included into the G7, and those countries were India, Russia, South Korea, Australia. So he basically wants G7 to be G11 now. तो ये आर्टिकल को हमने PrepNuts में कवर करा है with a detailed analysis. The link of the same has been mentioned on the I button above and the description box below. Let us move on to our next article. Cabinet sets up secretaries group to attract investment. तो हमने अपने आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान पैकेज की सीरीज में देखा था कि गवर्नमेंट ने टू फैसिलिटेट द इन्वेस्टमेंट इन इंडिया and to better the investment culture of our country has decided to constitute the empowered group of secretaries and the PDCs or the project development cells. So that proposal of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has finally been approved by the Union Cabinet of India, and now there shall be constitution of the empowered group of secretaries and the PDCs in ministries and departments for attracting the investments to India. So empowered group of secretaries would be headed by the cabinet secretary, and the work will be to synergize all the investments and to ensure the timely clearances of all the investment proposals, whereas the work of the PDCs would be to create the investable projects with all the approvals. So this is a step of government to reinforce India's vision of becoming a $5 trillion economy by 24-25. News governance point of view से भी important है, and investment culture of India that is covered under GS3 part, उसके point of view से भी ये news important है. So this was a short development out here but an important development. Now let us move on to our next article. Cabinet not for agri marketing reforms. Again Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan 3.0 or the third tranche, which was entirely upon the agriculture and the allied activities. उसमें जो major reforms mentioned थे with respect to the ECA or the Essential Commodities Act of 1955, APMCs and contract farming, ये तीनों के regarding जो भी announcements किए गए थे उनको Union Cabinet of India ने approval दे दिया है. So to know in detail about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan 3.0 and all the reforms announced by the government of India, third tranche of the fiscal stimulus package 2.0, you can click the I button above और चेक आउट द लिंक इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स बिलो। हम यहाँ पे ब्रीफ में देख लेते हैं कि ईसीए, एपीएमसी और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग से रिलेटेड क्या रिफॉर्म्स प्रपोज किए गए थे। तो एसेंशियल कमोडिटीज एक्ट में बेसिकली 6 कमोडिटीज को डीरेगुलेट कर दिया गया था and they were cereals, pulses, oilseeds, edible oils, onions and potatoes from the list of the essential commodities. So these 6 commodities will now no longer be regulated by the ECA Act unless and until there are certain conditions, and those certain or the extraordinary conditions include natural calamity, war or famine, and even in those conditions the processors and the exporters will be exempted from the ECA Act. तो ECA Act जिसके कारण इंडिया का स्टोरेज मॉडर्नाइजेशन नहीं हो पा रहा था, स्टोरेज फैसिलिटीज क्रिएट नहीं हो पा रही थी और स्टोरेज सेक्टर में इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं आ पा रहा था, ऑल दोज लूपहोल्स और द प्रॉब्लम्स विल बी प्लग्ड नाउ as there won't be any restrictions on these 6 commodities under the ECA Act. Second was with respect to the APMCs. 3 टाइप की रिस्ट्रिक्शंस अभी तक थी इंडिया में। 2 ऑफ देम वर रिलेटेड टू द फार्मर्स एंड 1 वाज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द ओवरऑल ट्रेड। तो फार्मर्स इन इंडिया आर अलाउड टू सेल देयर प्रोड्यूस ओनली इन द नोटिफाइड मार्केट्स व्हिच आर आल्सो नोन एज मंडीज। तो फार्मर्स अपने नियरेस्ट नोटिफाइड मंडी के अलावा अपना प्रोड्यूस कहीं और सेल आउट नहीं कर सकते हैं। सो दिस रिस्ट्रिक्ट्स द फार्मर्स चॉइस टू सेल हिज और हर प्रोड्यूस। So this was the restriction number 1. Restriction number 2 was that the farmer can sell his or her produce only to the registered licensees operating under the APMC Act and to nobody else. Third restriction with the overall trade was that there wasn't a seamless interstate trade flow. So since agriculture and market are under the state subjects and there is not much scope for the center to bring in reforms in these sectors, so it has finally come out with a proposal to free the interstate trade barriers. As under Article 301, interstate trade falls under the concurrent list of the Indian Constitution, and so the central government has decided to bring in the reforms so that seamless interstate trade can be ensured. तो अब farmers अपनी मंडी से बाहर जाके भी sell out कर सकते हैं, and finally the Union Cabinet has given the approval to the contract farming as well, where farmers and the private players, especially the corporates, can initiate contract farming. All these reforms are covered in detail on a PrepNuts initiative, and you definitely can check out that by clicking the link mentioned in the description box below. And there is a small update with respect to the hydroxychloroquine out here that WHO जिसने suspend कर दिए थे HCQ को from the solidatory trials, that finally has been revoked by the WHO. तो HCQ को WHO ने वापस preventive drug ले लिया है for the treatment of the COVID-19. तो ये एक small update है जो आपको पता होनी चाहिए with respect to the HCQ, because इंडिया ने HCQ का suspension नहीं किया था after the WHO suspended it, and day before yesterday we saw that the ICMR gave a nod to go with the HCQ for the preventive measures with respect to the COVID-19. Now let us move on to our next article. Hong Kong belongs to China, Nepal. ये न्यूज अगेन एक ऐसी न्यूज है जहां पे हमें बिटवीन द लाइंस जाके थोड़ा सा रीड करने की कोशिश करनी है। चाइना ने रिसेंटली नेशनल सिक्योरिटी लॉ ऑन हांगकांग को पास किया है, जिसको हमने डिटेल में कवर करा है ऑन अ PrepNuts इनिशिएटिव। बट यहाँ पे हम उस बिल की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे हम चाइना और नेपाल के अलाइनमेंट्स की बात कर रहे हैं। नेपाल हैज कम आउट इन सपोर्ट ऑफ चाइना व्हेन द मेजर डेमोक्रेसीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड लाइक यूएस, यूके all are against China and the national security law that the China has finally given effect to, as it takes away the autonomy of the Hong Kong which has been ensured by the basic law since 1997. इस आर्टिकल को आप यूज कर सकते हैं इंडिया नेपाल रिलेशंस के इरिटेंट्स को मेंशन करने के लिए। सेकंड, अगर आपको इंडिया नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी को क्रिटिकली एनालाइज करना है तो उसमें भी आप इस आर्टिकल का एग्जांपल दे सकते हैं, बिकॉज नेपाल इज अ कंट्री विथ विच इंडिया हैज इट्स पीस एंड फ्रेंडशिप ट्रीटी सिंस 1950s. It enjoys open borders and very deep people-to-people ties. And till 2014, Nepal's 100% trade was totally dependent upon the India. And it was only after this that the Nepal has done its agreement with China to access its ports for the trade. So that was a big diplomatic defeat for India. And since then, Nepal has started to use the China card against India to negotiate or bargain with India. तो नेपाल का इस तरीके से openly support करना चाइना को ऑन दी हांगकांग which is a very controversial issue, is a clear indication of changed foreign policy priorities and the alignments, which also are clearly reflected in the recent Kala Pani dispute between India and Nepal. So this was the last article from the Hindu. Now let us see two articles from the Indian Express. Making research Atmanirbhar. ये article को आप एक quick read दे सकते हैं, and the only important keywords mentioned in this article are that is mentioned out here, and it is with respect to the triple helix model that involves the collaboration between the research institutes, इंडस्ट्री एंड द गवर्नमेंट. तो इंडिया की रिसर्च एक्टिविटीज को एक ट्रिपल हेलिक्स मॉडल की अभी जरूरत है. यहाँ पे फार्मास्यूटिकल रिसर्च की बात करी जा रही है इन पर्टिकुलर, बट यू कैन यूज दिस ट्रिपल हेलिक्स मॉडल इन द जनरल रिसर्च एक्टिविटीज एज वेल, बिकॉज कोलैबोरेशन एट दीज थ्री लेवल्स always need to be ensured. Second important thing is that the innovations should be bottom up. And when we talk about the pharmaceuticals in India, then the bottom up means biotechnology, medical innovation and the public health at the university level. तो ये article को आपको एक quick read देना है only to pick up few keywords with respect to the research and development in India. Second article out here is a middle power movement. This is with respect to the India-Australia relations. तो India-Australia की first ever bilateral virtual summit होने वाली है on 5th of June, and this article is in that respect. India-Australia के relations को हमने brief में study करा था कुछ दिनों पहले. मैं उसकी link mention कर देता हूँ description box में for a quick revision, and you can also read this article as this is again a quick revision of the India-Australia relations. Once this summit is done, we'll definitely will cover the India-Australia relations on a Cracked Nets initiative. Now let us see our articles from the PIB. गवर्नमेंट टू कंडक्ट स्किल मैपिंग ऑफ सिटीजन रिटर्निंग फ्रॉम ओवरसीज. तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने एक स्किल मैपिंग स्कीम लॉन्च करी है दैट इज स्वदेश, विच स्टैंड्स फॉर स्किल्ड वर्कर्स अराइवल डेटाबेस फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट सपोर्ट. सो दिस स्कीम विल बेसिकली मैप ऑल द स्किल्स ऑफ द रिटर्नीज विच आर रिटर्निंग अंडर द वंदे भारत मिशन फ्रॉम द कोविड इन्फेक्टेड कंट्रीज. दिस इज अ जॉइंट इनिशिएटिव बिटवीन द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्किल डेवलपमेंट, एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स एंड सिविल एविएशन टू फुलफिल द डिमांड ऑफ द इंडियन एंड द foreign companies. So Swadesh basically will provide to the companies better and trained skill workers through the skill maps, and it will provide to the workers better job opportunities according to the demand registered by the companies both Indian and foreign. तो हर रिटर्निंग सिटीजन का एक स्वदेश स्किल्स कार्ड बनेगा जिसके थ्रू उसको एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज प्रोवाइड करी जाएंगी थ्रू डिस्कशंस विद द की स्टेक होल्डर्स. तो प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से यू शुड बी अवेयर अबाउट द स्वदेश एंड द स्वदेश स्किल्स कार्ड. Now let us move on to our next article. Major impact on climate due to extension of Ameri Ice Shelf or the AIS NCPOR study reveals. So National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, that is the NCPOR, has studied the AIS or the Ameri Ice Shelf. तो यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट है जानना अबाउट द अमेरी आइस शेल्फ एंड द एनसीपीओआर. एनसीपीओआर इज द प्रीमियर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन which conducts the research and development for the polar and the southern ocean, that is Arctic and the Antarctic. So it also maintains the Indian Antarctic research bases, that is Maitri and Bharti, along with the Indian Arctic base which is Himadri. NCPOR ने ये predict करा है through the satellite data that there would be an expansion in the AIS. So here on the map AIS can be located. It is on the east coast of the Antarctica, and these are the predictions made by the NCPOR with respect to the AIS, that it is expanding and it will expand till 2026. तो यहाँ पे आपको टेक्निकलिटीज में नहीं जाना है. You just need to know about the NCPOR and the AIS both from the prelims perspective. So this being the last article of the day, we shall wrap up the daily news notes of the day. Please check out all the links mentioned in the description box below. Post your suggestions, queries, doubts in the comment section below. Keep learning guys. Thank you.